Welcome at the content-based presentation for Unit 5 for Music, Dance and Drama. The subject code for this subject is MDD12, MD12 and SSMD12. My name is Dr. Marie van Skalpeck and my contact details, both my mobile number and my email address, you will find on the PowerPoint presentation. You are welcome to contact me anytime between 6 and 8 on weekdays. Those are my office hours. You can contact me outside of these times as well, but I won't be able to guarantee that I can answer my phone or that I can help you with your queries. So if you want to be sure of getting me, make sure that you contact me between 6 and 8 p.m. on weekdays. Okay, let's start. Now this is a content-based presentation for Unit 5, how to express artistic opinions in an assertive manner. The aim of this presentation is to clarify the study material as set out in your study guide. At the end of this presentation, you should have a clearer understanding of the information contained in the study guide. Any questions or uncertainties should be clarified in your study group or by contacting your tutor. Now, how will you use this presentation? Now, this presentation serves as a very, very basic tool to help clarify each section. Difficult theories and models and sections will be explained in more detail, and you need to refer to your study guide throughout this presentation, as often I'm only giving a broad explanation of a section. This means that I want you to have your hard copy of your study guide or the soft copy of your study guide on your Kindle in front of you as we go through this section. Now, I want to put it very strongly that this is a content-based presentation. In other words, it aims to explain the work. This is not an exam presentation, okay? And it doesn't take precedence over an exam presentation. It's a content-based presentation. Now, okay, let's move on. Why am I doing the presentation like this? You should think of your study guide as a story, okay? And the story has a beginning, it has a middle, and it has an end. So in order for you to know what dance, music, and drama really is about, you have to start reading the story, the study guide, at the very first page, read through it, everything, and end at the last page. And that way you can have a bigger picture, you can have a general idea of what this subject is about. If you just take sections here and sections there, then you'll never understand where this fits in or how this works, and you won't be able to differentiate it between different bits of information. You will have you will struggle memorizing it, understanding it. You will have trouble learning, and of course you won't be able to give the correct information in an exam at a specific question. Okay. Now the units also works like stories. The units also have a beginning and a middle and the end. So for each unit, I want you to start reading at the beginning and read until you get the end. If you only choose certain sections to read or certain sections to learn, you will never get the broader picture of each unit. So you'll never know what this whole thing is about. And once again, you will struggle with understanding, you will struggle with learning. Okay, and you will struggle in passing your exams. So make sure that you do this unit as a whole. If music, dance and drama were a subject that was presented at a university with daily classes, then this subject probably would have been presented over 6 months and you would have gone to class 3 times a week. During these classes, you would have been presented with a theory, but you will also have had opportunity to engage with it practically, to investigate it practically, and also to work in groups in order to practically understand this theory. However, distance learning does not work like this. The onus is unfortunately on you, the student, to do all of this in your own time. So this presentation can't take the same format as a class at a university with daily classes can. So that's why I'm giving you in straightforward sections. I'm giving you broad outlines so that you understand what the general idea of a section is, and then you can go fill in the details, and that's why I'm only explaining the very difficult concepts in great detail. Okay, are you ready? Then we can start. What this unit is about. Now, Unit 5 is how to appreciate, teaches you how to appreciate music and drama performances. Okay, so appreciate means how you can enjoy it more, how to help you enjoy these things more. It also explains to you how to communicate opinions of artistic work. In other words, how to have an informed decision whether you like an artwork or not, or whether you like a drama piece or not, or whether you like a music piece or not. And it also teaches you how to react to criticism in praise. Okay? Finally, it deals with how to teach learners to work in a group. There are 5 learning outcomes for this unit, and what that means is that by the end of the units, you should be able to do the following 5 things. If you are not able to do them, then I want you to go back to the start of your unit again and start reading through again, because that means that you misunderstood or missed a section of the work. Now, the 5 things that you should be able to do at the end of this unit is you should be able to discuss how to appreciate artistic works of art. You should be able to discuss how to appreciate artistic works of music and drama. You should be able to explain how to communicate opinions about artistic work assertively. You should be able to explain how one could react to criticism and praise, and you should be able to explain how to teach learners to work together in a group. Now, section 5.1, that's where we're starting, and that is how to appreciate work of arts. Now, they give you a lot of information on how to appreciate art. That's very straightforward. You can go through that on your own. The gist of that, or the general idea of that first part of this section, is that art appreciation, or the enjoyment of art, is something that is available to everyone, regardless of your class or your creed or your race. Okay? So enjoyment of art is something for everybody that you can do, whether you've got a background in art or not. That is the general idea of the first section of 5.1. Okay? You can fill in the rest of the details. Now, an art critique, we're moving on to an art critique now, is an evaluation or judgment of a work of art. An art critique and criticism is not the same thing. Criticism can be when I tell you, I really don't like your hair. I'm not giving you a reason for that. It's not based on anything. It's just, I don't like it. Okay? An art critique follows 4 steps, which are both objective and subjective, as most things are, but that allows you to form an opinion based on these things. So it's not something that you're just saying willy-nilly. It's something that you have thought about, and that you can actually, if you say, I think the artist is meaning this, then you can actually say why you are saying it. So you can give a reason for your evaluation or judgment. Now, the 4 steps that you need to do in order to do an art critique is you have to firstly describe what you see, then you analyze the artwork, you interpret the artwork, and you use this description, analysis and interpretation to evaluate the artwork. Now, number 1, I've brought an artwork today. I want you to look at it carefully. So for step 1, describe what you see. Okay? Now, this is the objective, or other words for objective is neutral, impartial part of the art critique. And it only involves a technical description. In other words, you are literally saying what you are seeing. You are including stuff like, including things like the artist's name, the title of the work, the type of artwork, the subject of the painting, the objects in the painting, your first impression of the painting, the colors, the shapes, the lines and textures, light saturation, sensory qualities, identification of the predominant mood, and the visual effect. So if you look at this painting, the title is Sunset, so that would be something that you note. You can also note the vivid use of different colors. And you can see that sometimes the colors bleed into one another. And you can also see the broad brush strokes and the different types of paints that are used. Okay, now, and please keep in mind that I'm simplifying this greatly in order to give you an example. Okay, so we've described what we've seen. Then you're moving on to analyzing the artwork. Now, when you analyze the artwork, you use this technical description that you've just done to do an in-depth examination of how these technical elements were used to create the overall impression conveyed by the artwork. And you can refer to stuff like color, shape, form, line, light, shadow, and how all of these technical elements contribute to the mood, meaning, and aesthetic sensation of the artwork. Now, for example, if we look at this artwork, I've just said now that there are very vivid colors used, and now we can see what is the use of these colors that we've noted in the technical description. How is that conveying the idea or the whatever the meaning that the artwork aims to create. And I would say, for example, the use of vivid colors tells you the brilliance of a sunset in Namibia. The third step that you do is interpreting the artwork. Now, this is the most subjective. In other words, it's personal, it's biased, it's what you think, okay, part of the art critique. And you use the technical analysis that you've just done to apply your own understanding of the artist's intended purpose. Now, while you are doing this, you have to keep the following in mind, that you have to communicate the artist's statement or what you think the artist's statement is. You have to expound on the feeling conveyed by the artwork, explain what you feel the artist's intended purpose for this artwork is, examine the choices in technique, materials, and subject matters, identify and describe symbols in the artwork. Now, if we try and interpret this artwork of the sunset using vivid colors, I would say that not only does the use of vivid colors portray the brilliance of Namibian sunsets, but I would also say that maybe this picture symbolizes all the different contrasts in the Namibian landscape. If you think about it, in the west we've got the deserts, west and east, we've got deserts. In the north we've got luscious green, and down south we've got more savanna-like. Namibia is a country full of contrasts, and I would say that this picture depicts those contrasts in Namibia, but still we are all under the same sun, and we all still see these unbelievable, wonderful, brilliant sunsets that we all experience, and that is the same whether we are on the north, or at the coast, or at the east, or at the south. So if you can see what I've done there, I've noted the colors during the technical description. I've said what the colors mean during the analysis, and now I've interpreted. So I gave my own meaning to what these colors mean during this step. Now the last step is the evaluation of the artwork. Now the first three steps leads up to this point, and you can use it also to draw conclusions and reach judgments about the artwork. So the work that you've done up to now, you use that in order to make your judgment about the artwork. And during this section, you state what you think the artwork value is. You describe the artwork's relevance to the community, and you explain where you think the artwork has strong value and where you think it falls short. So my evaluation of this artwork, which is entitled Sunset, would go something like, sunset is a great example of how we in Namibia, even though we are so different, work together to obtain the same goal, a better Namibia for all, because no matter where we live, no matter how contrasting the landscapes, the physical landscapes that we live are, or the emotional landscapes, or our personal landscapes, all of us still live under the same sun, and we all still experience this wondrous beauty and bounty that Namibia has to offer. And in that sense, I think the artist has managed to capture not only the brilliance of the Namibian sunset and the beauty of the Namibian nature, but also the spirit of the Namibian people. Okay, that would be an example of a very quickly thought out art critique for this artwork. I hope that this clarified this entire process for you and that you will be able to do it. I would urge you actually to go look at a painting or find one on the internet and see if you can follow this process, all 4 steps, in order to get to the art critique. I'm moving on to section 5.2, how to appreciate artistic works of music and drama. Now the first subsection there is classical music. Classical music is Mozart, Bach, Beethoven. It's stuff that are played with a philharmonic orchestra quite often. It is not modern music. Okay, so this section explains to you the benefits of classical music to learners, and it provides illustrated activities to teach the appreciation of classical music to children. The unit is, or this section is actually rather straightforward. You can read all through those benefits all by yourself and fill in the details. The activities that they suggest you use to involve your learners in classical music and also to encourage their enjoyment thereof is that you associate classical music with positive events. For example, you play classical music in the background during a fun activity that you do in class. It also suggests that you do classical music activities. For example, you try to visually recreate a classical music piece with paint. In other words, you play a classical music piece for the children, and while they are listening to it, they are trying to paint what they are hearing. Classical music and imagery, for example, there are DVDs that pair classical music and imagery or visualizations that other people has had what this classical music means. You can play stuff like that to your learners. You can also use Fantasia and cartoons. Some of the retro cartoons like Tom and Jerry actually makes use of classical music in order to portray his feelings of angst or feelings of sadness or feelings of calm or feelings of excitement. So you can show that to students. And then also the last thing that you can do to enhance your learners' enjoyment of classical music is you can take them to live performances. For example, you can take your learners to the ballet or the opera or the symphonic orchestra. Now, those things aren't actually that widely available, I think, to our learners in Namibia. However, you can actually play them a piece. You can find something on the internet, on the DVD, and you can actually play them a section where they show you how a live performance of a symphonic orchestra, for example. So you can go through the rest of that section on your own. There's much more detail than I have given here, and make sure that you understand all the terminology. Now, the next section is how to appreciate drama, works of drama. And once again, it's a very straightforward section. It explains how to teach learners to appreciate drama works. In other words, how to teach learners to enjoy works of drama, both live, so that means they are watching somebody perform, or on screen, so are watching it on TV or on a computer screen. And it also explains to you the benefits of using drama in educational settings, just as a link up to Unit 4 and Unit 1. You can go through all of that by yourself. There's nothing earth-shattering there. Now we're moving on to section 5.3, how to communicate opinions about artistic works. Now this section is concerned with the writing of a theatre critique. Okay, we've done the art critique, now we are doing the theatre critique. Now the theatre critique provides questions to be asked on some of the main theatre conventions used. This is stuff like acting, directing, space, scenery, costumes, lighting, text, and character. Okay, an example of the questions, for example, that you have to ask if you're in the live performance and you have to ask of the actors of the acting, were the actors believable? So, for example, if somebody portrayed a bully, did you believe that this actor was a bully, or wasn't that actor very believable? You can look at the acting and you can think which actors was the most successful. In other words, which were the best at what they do. Were there performances that you really didn't like? Why didn't you like them? Why did you think the ones that were good were really good at what they do? And then also, how did the company work together? Now, this is something that you call ensemble work. Okay, ensemble mean working together as a group. So how did the whole cast, all the actors and characters, work together as an ensemble? Could you see that this was a group effort, or was here an actor and there an actor and nothing really actually fit together? So that's examples of questions that you can ask for acting. Your study guide gives you lots of questions on all of these theatre conventions. So make sure that you answer them in preparation for your theatre critique. Because once you've asked and answered all these questions on the productions, you can use these answers as evidence, I want to call it, to back up your opinion. For example, if you say that this is the best production of King Lear that I've ever seen, you will be able to say why. For example, the ensemble work were great, and the set was magnificent, and the actors really were believable. So these are the type of things that you can say because you've answered all of those questions. Okay, now if you dislike the work, the theatre work, okay, use examples from the work itself to explain your opinion. So don't just say, oh, I hated it, it was awful. You have to say why you hated it. Why was it awful? For example, it was a play about gambling, but they got the gambling games, they got all wrong. So it wasn't believable. I didn't believe for one instance that any of the actors have ever gambled before, and because of that, I wasn't able to believe the story. Okay? This is an example of using examples from the work itself to explain your opinion. You can also compare or contrast it with examples of other more successful artists. So, for example, if you sit in a production of, let's use the example of the Shakespeare play King Lear again. You can say, I really disliked it, and compare it with the production of King Lear that I saw last year, where they got the costumes, spoke of the period, and the actors knew their lines, and all of these things. This was a miserable experience, okay? If you like the work, you can also voice your own opinion on what makes it unique or what makes it fascinating. And once again, use examples out of the text. You can say this was a delightful production of Pride and Prejudice. The costumes were frivolous, just like the characters, for example. You can also say how the artist's goals were achieved. For example, if this was a production on domestic violence, you can say that after I've watched this, it really hit home to me that how the victims after domestic violence are powerless, and how they don't have, they often feel like they don't have anywhere to go. You can comment on stuff like that. Don't just say, oh, it was so wonderful, I loved it, it was unbelievable, you have to go watch it. Because then people that are reading your theatre critique are going to ask you, why? Why? What was so wonderful? Why should I go watch it? Okay? So you can go through that section. It gives you more information on everything that I've just said, and hopefully you will understand it a bit better. And remember, firstly we did an art critique, and now we did a theatre critique. Okay, I'm moving on to section 5.4, how to react to criticism and praise. Now, criticism, when somebody tells you, for example, I don't like your hair, it's a fact of life, okay? Nobody likes it, but you have to deal with it, because you are going to be faced with criticism at some point in your life. It will also be criticism on your work. I really don't like that production that you've done. I thought it sucked. People are going to tell you that, and you have to be prepared for that. However, if you know how to react to criticism in the appropriate way, it is a skill that will help you so much in life, and it will also reduce unnecessary suffering. Now, there are 6 guidelines that I want you to keep in mind when reacting to criticism. You always have to think, what can I learn from criticism? Because let's face it, quite often, most of the times, criticism are actually rooted in the truth. So there are some truth in it. So what can I learn from this criticism? If somebody never criticizes you, you'll never be able to improve. Okay? So you think, what can I learn from criticism? You try to respond to the suggestion and not the tone of the criticism. In other words, respond and listen to what is being said, not how it is being said. You have to learn to value criticism. If you don't get criticism, you can't improve, you can't get better. You should ignore false criticism. If you are being criticized without any basis in the truth, don't fret about it, just ignore it, okay? Don't respond immediately. If you respond immediately, because none of us like to be criticized, you are probably going to respond in anger, and you're going to be very sorry later on. So just wait, calm down, and then respond. And then the last thing is smile. When somebody criticizes you, smile, okay? Not only does it make you feel more relaxed, and it can be a fake smile, it doesn't have to be a real smile, but it relaxes you, and it also relaxes the other person somewhat. They will probably moderate their approach a little bit, because if somebody smiles to you like this, it's very, very hard to be nasty to them, isn't it? So those things I want you to keep in mind when you are reacting to criticism. Now, reacting to praise is also a skill, just like reacting to criticism. Quite often we would hear somebody say, wow, I like your dress. And then you respond, what, this whole thing? Or, oh, your hair looks nice. Okay, all of us have difficulty responding to praise in the correct way. Now, responding to praise is actually very simple. Just say thank you and really mean it. Okay? Treat praise as a gift, because it's a gift that somebody is giving you. Receive that gift, take it, and say thank you. Now, if you want to react adroitly or cleverly, you have to remember to do the following 3 things. You have to be able to recognize when you are doing something well. And you have to recognize that by yourself. That means you don't need somebody else to tell you that you are doing well. You realize yourself that you are doing good work. You are able to validate yourself and obtain validation from outside. In other words, you are able to know inside that you are good, and you are able to hear from other people that you are good without going, oh, no, it's not true. And then that you still treat praise like a gift. If you can do all of these things, by all means, give a clear response. But otherwise, smile, say thank you, and mean it. The last section in this unit is section 5.5, how to teach learners to work in a group. Now, this section starts off by explaining why group working skills is an important skill to have and to teach, not only in school but also later in life. It's very straightforward. You can go through that on your own. Now, there are 4 methods that you can use to teach the value of group work. They are storytelling, practical teaching, healthy competitions, and personal experiences. All of these are discussed and expanded upon in great detail in your study guide. So go through that. It also gives you examples of what you can do within these methods. For example, building puzzles or reading stories. Go through that. Make sure that you know that. And then we are at the end of Unit 5. So we're going to go to learning activities now. Now, the study guide provides you with learning activities at the very start of this unit. So I think about the first or second page of this unit gives you learning activities. Learning activities is that list of questions at the start of your unit. After watching this presentation, I hope that you have a clearer picture or a clearer general outline of what this unit is about. I would like you to go to that unit, start at the beginning, and read through it until the end. Once you've done that, I want you to go to the learning activities, and I want you to try and answer them. Try and answer those questions. Once you've done that, I want you to turn to the back of your unit where the feedback on learning activities are. Now, the feedback on learning activities is technically the answers to the questions that were posed. Then I want you to take the answers that you have and the feedback answers, and I want you to check if these two are the same. If they are the same, you've understood the work and you can go ahead and you can study. If they are not the same, it means that you've misunderstood something or maybe missed something. So I want you to go back to that section in the study guide, read through it, see if you can see where you went wrong. If you can't see where you went wrong, okay, I want you to see if your study group can actually help you with that, or of course you can contact me and we can see what you've missed, okay? And that, because that is at the end of the day how learning takes place. And that is it for this section. I hope that you understand it a bit better, and thank you very much for watching.